Hello and welcome to Qsports. I'm Amudu Gajigan. Thank you for joining us. We're live here on the studio at Caraba Avenue, and we're talking exclusively about the Gambia national team, the Scorpions. The coach, Jonathan McKinstry, have selected his squad of 24 men who are going to compete for the Gambia in the last two qualifiers that are left in the Morocco 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, which is first going to be against Comoros. This is going to be on Friday, and 3 days later, they'll play against Tunisia in Tunis. Two crucial matches, very difficult task for the Gambia, currently third in the group, behind both the group leaders, Tunisia and also Comoros. But behind Comoros by a point, a victory for the Gambia could see us in a very good position in the group. But is it going to be enough? Certainly not. Probably we would have to win against Tunisia to book a place to Morocco 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. Joining me in the studio is my colleague Amadou Tamba, who's been monitoring what has been happening with the national team. He was at the press conference at Football House on Thursday when coach Jonathan McKinstry was unveiling his squad. And this is Amadou Tamba's report on that particular day.
All the three goalkeepers maintain their places in the team, and 4 new players are added, of which 3, namely Babukar Njai of Auckland roots in the USA, Austria-Vienna midfielder Abubakar Bari in Austria, and English side Notts County's lethal striker Alassana Jatta are receiving their debut call-ups, while Abdoulaye Sanyang returns after missing the September window through injury. Here is coach Jonathan McKinstry.
Retaining Ibrahima Jarju, Lamine Saidi, Sheikh Sibi. In the defense, Ibu Toure, Babukar Njai, Joseph Cisse, Dudu Gay, Mamadou Lion Njai, Omar Colley, and James Gomez. In the midfield, Alassana Mane, Mamadou Badjo, Abubakar Bari, Ibu Adams, and Ibrahima Darbo. Forwards, Musa Barrow, Ablai Jallo, Abdoulaye Sanyang, Aliou Fadera, Suleiman Kamara, Yankuba Minte, and the strikers, Abdoulaye Cisse, Ali Sow, and Alassana Jatta.
Yankuba Minte, an exciting youngster for both Gambia and Brighton, despite being injured and not featuring for English Premier League side Brighton and Hove Albion in their last 3 games. He makes the squad, McKinstry clarifies.
I spoke with the sporting director of Brighton 2 days ago. So Yankuba is now fully fit. So he is now back in training as of this week. He's expected back in training with the Brighton first team. We know that not having played, the last game Yankuba played was the game against Madagascar for us. And that's not an ideal situation. But I think also that Yankuba, even at his young age, has built up enough credit to say, for one player in the squad, we can take a risk.
Before the Independence Stadium's continued disapproval by CAF, there had been expectations of playing this fixture at home. However, the failure to give the stadium the all-clear means the Gambia will be playing yet another home game away from home. Nonetheless, McKinstry says the Scorpions have their destiny in their own hands.
Really, our guys are pretty strong mentally, yeah? But equally for us as a staff, we make sure there's very clear messaging, because if you're setting out on a journey, if you want to get from A to B, you need to know where B is. You need to know what the road conditions are going to be like in order to get to B in a good condition. And that's what our job as a staff is. It's about making sure the players know what's expected of them this week, know very clearly what each of their individual roles and responsibilities are, and as a team, how we need to react to situations, and then to go out and do it.
Gambia sit third in the group with 5 points. Opponents Comoros are second with 6 points. Tunisia, who we will face in the last day of qualifiers, are top with 7 points. And Madagascar, still with a chance of qualifying, are bottom with 2 points. Given the situation, the Gambia needs to collect maximum 6 points to qualify, or at least 4 points from these 2 games, depending on other results.
Well, that's where we're going to set the agenda to start discussing about Gambia's chances of qualification. But first, let me engage my colleague Amadou Tamba, who was at Football House for this press conference where the coach named his squad. Amadou, what do you make of the whole environment, the coach, his response to questions, his demeanor? Because at certain questions, he was hot, although we'll get into the details of some of those questions that you've asked.
Well, thank you very much, Gajega, and a very good evening to the viewers. It's a pleasure to be back again. I think where we are right now, every Gambian is absolutely sitting on an egg. Why? Because we definitely want to see this team qualifying to the AFCON again. And the press conference where the coach unveiled the 24-man squad, those are the players that the Gambia needs to rely on, or Gambia will be relying on to do the job for us against Comoros and Tunisia. So we were waiting patiently to get the 24 players that he will be calling. And it's more or less players who were there in the October window are maintained, and a little bit of changes. Of course, we've seen Alassane Ajata, who I've monitored for quite a long time, and I think he's absolutely doing very well in the English League 2 with North County, and he deserves a place in the national team. He has been given the opportunity to be in the national team as well. Another player who missed the last window is Ablai Sanyang, alias Bambalai, who is playing with Hajduk Split, a club that is having former Barcelona player Rakitic, and also have Ivan Perisic. So I think he's surrounded by experienced players. Another player who is doing very well in the USA, that is, of course, Babukar Njai. He's also been called into the national team, so he also gets the nod there. So it's absolutely a very interesting team, and we're looking forward to the game against Comoros and Tunisia. And as you said, I think as we go further, we'll delve into some of the questioning, because some of the players are included. And listening to McKinstry in the fourth day he came to Banjul, he said, for you to be part of the team, you need to be playing consecutively for your club. And calling you into the national team for the fourth game does not mean that you've signed a contract with the national team. Your performance will depict whether you will maintain your place in the national team or not. And if we're not seeing that, we absolutely have to question. And he has every responsibility and every right to answer to the questions. And some of the questions that came that day, he wasn't pleased with some of the questions. But, well, we are here to do a job. And we have to remind him of what he said back then, whether he's still sticking to that or not. We have to remind him that, look, sir, this is what you said, and today you're doing this. So that was the situation or scenario back then at the Football House last Thursday.
Fantastic, very interesting. You would see the coach, you can judge for yourself his body language in reaction to the questions. In fact, at some point he wanted to make clarifications as to some of the questions that was asked. Well, arguably, he is our country's best player at the moment, Yankuba Minte. He plays his club football for Brighton Hove Albion, but he hasn't kicked a ball, that is, to play in a competitive match, since the last time he played for the Gambia in their 1-0 victory against Madagascar. That was a month ago. So since then, according to Brighton, his team, that he has a muscle injury. And even if you go to the club website, it is still written there that he's injured. And the type of injury, they said, is a muscle injury. So he hasn't played. But the coach has a different response when it comes to this, when journalists ask him a question on Yankuba Minte.
He's never refused a call-up. So the reason Ibrahim, as we explained the last time, was him and I had a discussion. He had some personal issues that were very pressing that needed attending to, and we agreed that I would not call him. So for anyone to suggest that Ibrahim Akali has not honoured an invitation is very incorrect. So I think it's important, because that's quite a damning thing to say about a player, that he doesn't, you call him and he doesn't. So again, I think it's important that we correct the question first of all, because you named two players who've only started one game in the last 4 weeks for their clubs. You know, Ibrahima obviously is an important player long-term for us, but started for Young Boys yesterday for the first time in the last 4 weeks. Hasn't been playing recently, and I spoke to Ibrahima this morning just to explain why he wasn't going to be in the selection. But in essence, I think over the last month he's played about 100 minutes of football total. And that's roughly the same. Musa's a little bit more. He's come off the bench in the last 2 games to do quite well, off the bench. But again, we just feel what Sully and what Bamba bring to the squad. Bamba obviously has returned from injury. Last week started, got 90 minutes previous weeks. He's sort of on an upwards trajectory, we would say. Fully fit now, upwards trajectory, scored last week. And Sully has been pretty much a regular at Racing Santander. So, I think it's important to correct the question in that the way you frame it makes it sound like the guys who have not been selected have been playing more than the guys who have been selected, when that's actually not true. It's just factually not true. Specifically on your question about Yankuba, I spoke with the sporting director of Brighton 2 days ago. So Yankuba is now fully fit. So he is now back in training as of this week. He's expected back in training with the Brighton first team. We know that not having played, the last game Yankuba played was the game against Madagascar for us. And that's not an ideal situation. But I think also that Yankuba, even at his young age, has built up enough credit to say, for one player in the squad, we can take a risk. And physically, we know it's not going to be an issue. Is there going to be a little question mark over match fitness in terms of can he play 90 minutes? Absolutely. We're not naive to think you can go from playing 0 minutes for 4 weeks to then playing 90 minutes at international level, but that's what a squad's for. We've got other guys who can play when he maybe isn't able to. But in terms of his physical fitness, there's absolutely no problem with that.
So a player who hasn't played for a month is still fit to play international football, a demanding game, a game that the Gambia needs in order to qualify, if they have any chance of qualification, is to win this game. And every player would have to give their 100%. The club says he has a muscle injury. The coach says he spoke to the sporting director of Brighton of Albion and the English Premier League that Yankuba Minteh has been training. He's fine. We've seen pictures of Yankuba Minteh when his team won against Manchester City, coming from behind to win 2-1. When the players left the pitch, they're getting into the dressing room. We saw him, of course, celebrating with your teammates. He wasn't in the matchday squad on that day as well. But for the Brighton coach, is it precautionary measures? Is it allowing him to go on, healed his injury to make sure that it's an injury that does not get aggravated by forcing to play or something like that? So, like the coach says, he said it's an ideal situation, this uncharted territory. Well, Amadou, you've been watching football for quite some time. We know just the name of a particular player in a squad, if he is like maybe one of the best players or the best player in a particular team, the opponent would obviously pay attention to that particular player in as much as football is a team sport. Is that a situation? Is Yankuba Minteh really at a position to play 90 minutes and give his 100% like he used to? This is a player who, if he loses the ball, he will track back, he will run, he will sometimes get even into duels and all of that. So what sort of situation are we in?
A very funny situation. Funny situation in the sense that in coaching itself, there is what you call risk taking, and I think that's what Jonathan McKinstry has just taken there, because he know that Yankuba Minteh didn't play a single minute since the tie against Madagascar in the qualifiers. And in the last games that Brighton played, he didn't play against Man City of recent, that is on the 9th. He didn't play against Liverpool, both in the league and in the EFL Cup. He didn't play against Wolves. He didn't play against Newcastle. So he sat about 5 games for Brighton and Hove Albion. And now taking that risk of calling that youngster into the national team in 2 important games that you need to win to be in the African Cup of Nations is absolutely a very huge risk. It might work, it might backfire. It might work in the sense that you bring him in, he takes his time. When he gets the opportunity, he puts the ball in the back of the net. It might backfire in the sense that you bring him in. We all know Yankuba Minteh has a very big heart for the Gambia. He's a very passionate youngster. He works his socks off whenever he's on the pitch for the Gambia. He's so determined, so hungry to get results for the Gambia. And both offensive and defensively, he's one of those players who will track back and try to help the defensive players. But if he starts, will we be able to see that in him? Will he be that Yankuba Minte will be very explosive in attack and as well in defending? That is, of course, a question mark unless we see that happen, because he's coming from an injury with, of course, the national team and not played for Brighton in the previous games. And now, will he be ready to play for 90 minutes? To me, I don't think so, unless he proves me wrong. But I don't think he'll be in a position of playing 90 minutes. And being that Yankuba Minte, who will join the attack and also join the defense in trying to close the spaces, not for Gambia not to concede, and also in trying to try and get the ball forward, try to score the goal or create for the strikers to score. So I think it's a very big risk that the coach took, but it comes with coaching. You have to take the risk sometimes, and you had him mention that if there is a player in the national team that he will be ready to take the risk, it's Yankuba Minte, and he has absolutely now taking that risk. Now let's wait and see what will happen. The portion where I did not agree with the coach is, of course, because I came up with that question as to Yankuba Minte is injured, and there were other players who were absolutely doing very well for their respective clubs, and they didn't get the call. And it was like the question will make other players feel like the players who were doing well at club level more than the players who were called were not called into the national team. And he made mention of, I mentioned Musa Juara, yeah. I mentioned Jibril Silla. And there's a third player, Ibrahim Akoli, as well. He made mention of two players that I mentioned that they started one game in the last 4 weeks. That was absolutely not a true statistics from the coach. One, let's look at Musa Juara for Vile. Before the list was called by McKinstry on the 7th, Musa played on the 3rd of November. That was against AAB. He came on in the 46 minutes and played in that game, and of course scored the third goal in that 3-3 draw. On the 27th of October, Musa played against Lingby, and he came in the 58th minute and scored in that game in which they won 2-0. On the 18th of October, Musa played against Copenhagen. He started in that game and played the entire 90 minutes, in which Vile lost by 3-1. On the 4th of October, Musa played against AAB, started and played 90 minutes and provided an assist in that game. So in that space of 4 weeks, Musa started 2 games and came off the bench in 2 games. He scored 2 goals and provided 1 assist. So in the context of Musa, that is not true.
That's not true. He's wrong.
He's absolutely wrong.
When he was answering the question, I was following the press conference online, but I know definitely the stats says otherwise.
Exactly. So in the context of Musa, he's wrong. Let's look at Ibrahim Akoli. He's playing at, of course, Young Boys. He has been benched on the 10th of November in the Young Boys tie against Lugano. He didn't feature. He didn't play in that game. He started and played 62 minutes in the UEFA Champions League game against Shakhtar Donetsk. And on the 2nd of November, he came off the bench in the Young Boys game against Zurich. He played 28 minutes in that game. And you look into the tie on the 30th of October, he came off the bench and played 10 minutes against Basel in the Swiss League. On the 23rd of October, he came from the bench and played 31 minutes against Inter Milan in the UEFA Champions League. So in the scenario of Ibrahim Akoli, he started 1 game in the previous 4 weeks. So he is right in that aspect for Ibrahim Akoli. But you look at the caliber of league that Ibrahim is playing.
And the number of minutes.
Exactly, that is what I'm saying.
We're talking about minutes here.
Yeah, we're talking about minutes. The reason why we're putting this into context is because what he said when he came into the Gambia from day one, that you need to play regularly for your club to be called into the national team. He's playing in the UEFA Champions League, playing against Inter Milan, playing against Shakhtar Donetsk. These are top teams who are playing regular football in the UEFA Champions League. Now, we look at another player here. That is, of course, Jibril Silla. He's playing in the Tanzanian league, of course, with Azam. He's an absolute brilliant player for Azam.
Fantastic player. And, yeah, he's got a brilliant goal.
Absolutely. He's the player who dealt a blow to Young Africans, because he was the player who scored for Young Africans to lose their unbeaten run in the league. And that was a derby. Young Africans against Azam is a top game in the Tanzanian Premier League. Now, we look at Jibril Silla. On the 2nd of November, Silla started for Azam against Young Africans and scored the winner. He played 90 minutes in that game. On the 25th of October, he started against Kengol and scored in that game as well. Azam won about 4-1 in that tie. On the 18th of November, he also started and provided the assist in their 2-0 win away to Tanzanian Prisons in the Tanzanian Premier League. So in the last 4 weeks that McKinstry is putting into context, Jibril Silla has started in all those 3 games and he has scored 2 goals and provided an assist. So he's wrong in the context of Jibril Silla as well. He was wrong earlier on in the context of Musa Juara. So those are the 3 players that I mentioned. And then you look at the player that he has called into the team, Suleiman Kamara. He said Suleiman Kamara is a regular with Racing Santander. Yeah. That is not true. That is not the scenario here. On the 10th of November, that was just 3 days after his unveiling of the final squad. Suleiman Kamara was benched and he did not even play when Racing Santander won in the Spanish La Liga 2. Yeah, on the 2nd of November, Suleiman came off the bench and only played 5 minutes for Racing Santander in their 1-1 draw against Albacete. On the 29th of October, he started and played 79 minutes, scored in that game as well. That was in the Spanish Copa del Rey when they defeated Lanzarote by 4-3. On the 27th of October, Suleiman came off the bench and played just 19 minutes as they won 2-1 away to Deportivo La Corona. On the 23rd of October, Suleiman started and played 58 minutes as Racing Santander won 2-0 at home to Cordoba. So he said he's been a regular. He only started 2 of those games. 2 starts and 2 off the bench. He scored 1 goal. So he should know that at the moment, the way he is following Gambian players as a coach, that is also our responsibility as journalists to follow the players, because he came into Banjul and told us that our players need to be playing regularly for their clubs to be able to get a call up into the national team. So it is also our responsibility to dig deep and see what our players are up to at their club levels. Look, when Tom Sanford was here, he was calling players who were absolutely not with clubs and not playing regularly for their clubs. To me back then, I said it categorically clear, and I will repeat it anywhere. I said this, that there is no law in football that says that a player who is not with a club should not be called into the national team. It's down to the coach. He knows what he wants. He knows the system that he wants to play, and he knows the players who fit into that system. So back then, this guy in Thompson Fed will look at a player like Gajaga and Amadou. Yeah, Amadou might have good minutes for his club or so, but Tom Sanford believes if Gajaga comes in, he fits into my system and he will help me get a result. And that's why Tom rely on calling players. Like, for instance, people give example of Ibrahima Sohna. He wasn't with a club, but he was called into the national team. The likes of Daud and Ngom and others were not playing regularly for their clubs, but they were called into the national team. But he was able to manage a squad that took us to the African Cup of Nations for consecutive AFCONs. And in our first edition, we went all the way to the quarterfinals with those players. So now if we get a coach who is telling us that for you to be in the national team, you need to play regularly for your club. And when a call-up comes in, we're not seeing that, we have to question.
Absolutely.
Because we get the statistics on paper. That is why we bring up that question. And that is the scenario here. So with Musa Juara, he's absolutely playing well. Jibril Silla, absolutely playing well. Alassana Jatta, he gets the call-up. He's absolutely playing very well. One of the most informed strikers that we get at the moment. Yankuba Minte, he's absolutely a passionate youngster who is determined to get the results for the Gambia. But it's a very risky situation. Is it a risk worth taking? The coach believes, yes, it's a risk worth taking. Now we ought to wait and see when the Gambia plays Comoros, whether that will be the scenario where the coach say, yeah, I decided to take the risk and the risk has worked well for me, or it backfires.
Well, these are the situations here. Talking about Yankuba Minte, when I did a post on social media concerning reminding the coach of what he said about players playing regularly before they are selected for the national team, I got a barrage of responses, some of them negative, to say, okay, Yankuba Minte is our star player. He's, you know, one of the best players, or if not the best player currently the Gambia has. So obviously his situation is an exceptional one. It's like, okay, certain preferential treatment when it comes to your best player. Okay, if you're a Ronaldo, if you're a Messi in your team, you can be walking on the pitch, but the coach wouldn't substitute you because of maybe your work rate, probably because you can decide the game by scoring the winning goal or maybe providing an assist for a winning goal. So those things happen in football. We know that. But a situation where a player is injured for quite some time, yes, the coach talks about an ideal situation, but doing the comparisons. And when it comes to Ibrahim Akoli, I think is where he went into detail also about Ibrahim Akoli. I think we have to listen to that.
Yes.
Ibrahim Akoli and Alassane Jatta. Alassane Jatta is the new inclusion in the squad. We've been talking about him previously when he was scoring goals.
Yes.
In fact, at some point he was like around 6 goals when he scored at the time. The coach said at the time, yes, he was good, but there are certain players in this squad also who were doing very well. But for the first time, he got the nod to join the squad. Let's listen to the coach, Jonathan McKinstry, on Ibrahim Akoli's situation and Alassane Jatta.
Ibrahim Akoli's never refused a call-up. So the reason Ibrahim, as we explained the last time, was him and I had a discussion. He had some personal issues that were very pressing that needed attending to, and we agreed that I would not call him. So for anyone to suggest that Ibrahim Akoli has not honoured an invitation is very incorrect. So I think it's important, because that's quite a damning thing to say about a player, that you call him and he doesn't come. That's never happened. So Ibrahima is fully committed to playing for us, and actually when I spoke to him this morning was disappointed but understood about not being called into this squad, but was very disappointed at not being able to represent the Gambia this time around. So I think it's important to correct that. For Aboubakar Barry and Alassane Jatta, obviously last time out Alassane was just recovering from concussion, and so wasn't at 100%, and yeah, between the two of us he just sort of felt players, when they come for the first time, want to make a real positive impression. And when you're not at 100%, you don't want to have a negative impression your first time out. So, he's feeling really good now, fully recovered from the concussion. He's maintained, after returning from that injury, he's maintained scoring goals in League Two for Notts County. And so he's going to come in and compete. But I also think, let's take the pressure off a little bit, because your first time stepping up to international level from League Two is a step up. The quality of players he will be playing against and playing with will be higher than what he plays with in League Two. So there's a lot of potential there with Alassane. We have big faith in him that he can do really well over the long term for us, but we think he can have an impact in the short term. So he's ready to come in. And again, Aboubakar, he's doing really well at Austria Vienna this season. Had a little bit of an injury a few weeks ago, but is back last few games, has been back in the team. And just again, a player who's ready to come, ready to compete. And I really think adds something different to us, because Aboubakar is a player who really likes to drive forward with the ball. He likes to make forward runs from midfield, can carry the ball really well. We don't have lots of those. We've got a lot of guys who like to play two-touch football. We've got guys who can be physical in the midfield. We've got the number 10s who can shoot and who can assist. We don't have too many of the players who can connect through their running and through their power play, let's say, the defensive effort and the attacking effort. So we're really excited to see what Aboubakar can do.
Well, Amadou, Alassane Jatta, well-deserved call-up.
Absolutely.
Playing for Notts County in the English League One.
Well, absolutely. It's a well-deserved call-up for Jatta. He has been scoring goals, and that's what you need right now. We have been creating chances from day one, and taking some and failing to take most of our chances. And that is where you need a striker who is very clinical. And you look at Alassane's goals with Notts County, absolute very, very clinical goals. He's a very good finisher. Can sweep home inside the 6-yard box, and he's very good in the air as well. In one-on-one situations as well, he has scored very, very good goals. Right now, he has about 10 goals in 13 matches in all competitions. So absolutely, he's a prolific striker. And of recent, in their last game against Doncaster, he scored in a very, very good header. So I think he deserved the call-up. And when he gets into the national team, if he gets the minutes and get the service from midfield and from either flanks, I think he will be in a better position to bang in goals, because he's an absolute brilliant striker and he deserved the call-up.
A player like Aboubakar Barry, Austria Vienna, midfielder, fantastic player as well.
Yeah, he's a very good player. Now it's up to the coach to look into the chemistry in midfield. who will combine in midfield to see to it that we get a very good gelling and way forward midfield, because he talks about Barry's good ball possession and also helping to get the ball forward to the offensive players. So he's a young player, full of energy, and we expect that their inclusion in the national team will bring a lot more positive, because these are two games that Gambia absolutely need to win. But I think Barry is also another player who is doing very well for Austria Vienna, and I think he also deserves his call to the national team. Now it's a matter of waiting and seeing what they will do, but I think they're playing at a very good level when it comes to their clubs. It's now up to them to at least be very much relaxed to ensure that they were doing very well. They were trusted by the coach. They are called into the national team to do a job, and they will be ready to do. They should be ready to do the job.
So we talk about Comoros, our opponents. You and I watched them play against Tunisia. That was their home game. You know, remember they defeated Tunisia by 1-0 away in Tunis. With that crowd, and then also having that zeal, that motivation, going forward, attacking football, intensity. In fact, they could have gone on to score more, although they scored a goal, which proves to be enough to win the game. The return leg also, when they played that game at the Félix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium in Côte d'Ivoire, for that particular game, they chose Côte d'Ivoire as their home ground. They scored first before Tunisia responded in the second half. The Comoros that I watch, Amadou, I'm really surprised. The explosiveness, the energy, the pace in the team, going forward, attacking intensity, with the chances that they even created in that particular game. We have a game in our hands.
Yeah, definitely we have a game in our hands. It's not going to be an easy game. Because Comoros will know they're ahead of us. If they can't win against us, they will try to employ tactics that they will be able to get a point. So it's not going to be easy. They will defend very well, and I think they will also try to take their chances. And they will fancy their chances in this game. Why? Because they will look back and say, look, we played against Tunisia. We were able to win, and we were able to draw the second leg. Tunisia played against the Gambia. They were able to beat Gambia, though results might change sometimes. But looking at these two games, Comoros will fancy their chances and say, look, we can go on and win against the Gambia. And of course, they will be motivated by that. And then they are ahead of the Gambia. They will look and say, look, if we cannot win them, I think we should employ a tactic whereas we collect 1 point off them. And their last game will be against Madagascar. With due respect to Madagascar, I think Comoros can navigate a result away from that game. So it's really not going to be an easy game for us. And that is why for our scenario, I think the mentality of the players is absolutely key in Gambia getting a result in this game. Football is played for 90 minutes in a game. So it's important on how you manage this 90 minutes. From the word go, it's absolutely going to be it needs to be very clear with these players. And that is why a question like that came up at the press conference. And the coach was very much positive in his response that, look, he has a group of players who are very, very good mentally. And the mental level of the players is absolutely very good. So that is encouraging. We need to manage this game very well. We need to take it to the Comoros side, and we have to ensure that the first goal of that game comes from us. If not, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's doable, and it's really going to be a difficult game for both sides. But I think Comoros will be very happy if they cannot win. They will be very happy with a draw. Whilst in our scenario, yes, we can draw against Comoros and win against Tunisia, but I think for us not to be under serious pressure in our last game, we need to pick up maximum points against Comoros.
And talking about this Comoros side, when we played against them, we had a fantastic game. That 1-1 draw, they scored first, we equalized. Both teams created chances, but overall, I think we had more of the possession. In terms of chances, also we created more chances. Against Tunisia, where we lost, there were intervals in the game that we could have killed the game. Unfortunately, those missed chances came back to haunt us, and Tunisia defeated us by 2-1. The game that we thought we were better than Madagascar, we played awful football in that game.
Very bad game.
Yeah, very bad game. In terms of possession, going forward, the connection of the passes. In fact, if there is this word to be used to say you grind the result, that's towards the end, just out of nothing, Yankuba Minte scored, and you know that was the only goal of the game. And eventually, we won by a 0-0 narrowly against Madagascar. And this is a team that we thought possibly we are better than them in this group. Comoros is a difficult side. Tunisia also is a difficult side. Looking at that scenario, now we are going to play against Comoros. This is a team that we played before. So tactically, we should both be at a level in which either side knew very well about their opponents.
Yeah, I think as a country, we will be very, very disappointed if we don't qualify to the African Cup of Nations. Why? Is because by now, we should have been at the African Cup of Nations already qualified, or at least we need 1 point in these 2 games. Because the game that we played against Comoros, we absolutely played good football in the first game and had all the chances. If we had taken our chances, that game would have been maximum 3 points for the Gambia. Yeah. The game we played against Tunisia, we absolutely had very, very good chances. If we had buried our chances in that game, it could have been maximum 6 points in the first 2 games for the Gambia. Yeah. By now, we would have been with looking 10 points or 11 points, or at least we would have been automatically qualified at the moment, or at least looking for just a single point to qualify. So we put ourselves in this situation. We have to get ourselves out of this situation. How? Is just to go on and try by all means to take the chances against Comoros. I know we will create. Let's try to take the chances in that game and go on to the game against Tunisia as well and try to take the chances. But this countries as well, the most critical situation in our group is no country has qualified yet. Even Tunisia.
Yes,
they have not
in this group, yet. Yeah,
yes.
Sure.
And
it's all to play for in this last 2 games.
Madagascar will fancy their chances against Tunisia, and Comoros will fancy their chances against Gambia. Likewise, Gambia will fancy its chances against Comoros. So, but at the end of the day, it has to be 2 teams. Now, we've been playing good football before the game against Madagascar, creating chances and we are not scoring. It will play in the mind of the coach. Should I change the plan? Should I try to hit and go direct and try to get the goals? Or let me try to keep the possession. When I get forward, try to create the chances and try to score. Now, the strikers that we have, Abdoulaye Cissé, Alassane Jatta, Ali Sow, are all good strikers. But it's down to the coach as to who he is going to go first. Because look at Alassane Jatta. His runs, his positioning in the box, and his finish are all absolutely very good. Now, he's coming into the national team for the first time. The coach talked about that players coming into the national team, they will want to leave an impression. There is pressure here and there or so. But I think Alassane is experienced enough right now. He's over 20 or so. He has the experience. If he gets the nod and gets the creativity from the likes of Musa Barrow in midfield, whether it's Abubakar or Ablai Jallo or whosoever, on the right side, if it is Bambalai or Yankuba Minte starts or so, if he gets the service, I'm very much sure he will be in a position to finish. And once we get a striker so clinical like him, and we get the wingers and midfielders creating, we can be hopeful of getting the goals against Comoros. But it's down to the whole team. It's a collective effort. Defenders might get the chances when it comes to set pieces, being it free kick or corners. They should try to make sure we as a team take our chances. That is fundamental if we are to get a result against Comoros. Once we don't take our chances, we might come back crying over spilled milk again, and God forbid, we might not be in Morocco.
Absolutely. So that is news that nobody wants to hear. If you're a football fan, you support the Gambia national team, the Scorpions, as they in their quest to make a 3rd consecutive Africa Cup of Nations, and it starts with Comoros on Friday and later again on Monday. We're playing against Tunisia in Tunis, another difficult game. Well, if you want to have your say on this show, we're talking about so many important points about player selection, about the issue of Yankuba Minte, the invitation of Alassane Jatta into the national team for the first time from Notts County, where he's been banging in the goals week in, week out, and some other players. If you want to have your say, the number is on your screen, 5050505. 5050505. That's the number if you want to join us on the discussion to talk about the Gambia national team, the Scorpions, as they face Comoros on Friday, the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, Morocco 2025, match day 5. This is going to be round 5 of matches, and then from there, 3 days later, they face Tunisia. And Amadou, we've seen in this national team situations where Adama Sidibe came impressed, in fact scored in his debut, but now he's no longer in the team. That shows, is it competitiveness of the squad?
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely competitiveness, and I think Adama had some issues with injury when he returned back to his club. You look at the striking department, we have other strikers who are doing very well and banging in goals. Abdullah Cisse, Alassana Jatta, and of course Ali Sow. At some point, Hassan was with the national team, but he was out injured. He hasn't gotten the opportunity on that McKinstry. So it's a department that is absolutely facing a lot of competition. And Adama Sidibe is young. He has a long way to go. And I think he will, if he continues banging in goals for St. Johnstone, he will be back into the team. And the right side of defense.
Just sorry, we have a caller on the line. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Ibrahim.
Okay, Ibrahim, what's your say about the national team, the Scorpions?
I am calling Birgama.
Okay, déglu ñu si téléphone bi.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Hello?
Yow yaa ngi ñu déglu si télé bi de. Déglu ñu si téléphone bi rek. Wàññi sa télé bi.
Okay.
Waaw.
maa ngi fayal maa ngi si jàmm.
waaw ñu ngi waxtaanee yëfi Gambia national team bi yow lan mooy si sa xelaat.
waaw suma xelaat mooy so fail nañ pour stade bi waaye teewul ñu mun a qualifier bi léegi.
so si yow daal mun nañoo qualify wala. Okay. He lost that caller. He's talking about qualification. Well, for us to qualify, we have to win the next two matches. So what's the mathematical situation, Amadou, because you'll be a mathematician, when it comes to a win against Comoros and a draw against Tunisia has to depend on what happens between Madagascar and Comoros.
Yeah, it's a very
not
tricky.
In our hands, if that's the situation.
It's a very tricky situation. The groupings is very funny, but at the moment, right now, as we speak, we have destiny in our own hands. Destiny in our own hands in the sense that we go all out and win the remaining two games that we have. If we win against Comoros, we will have 8 points. Comoros will be on 6. And then depending on Tunisia and Madagascar, it depends. If Tunisia wins, Tunisia will be on 10 points. Now, if let's say...
And that's qualification for Tunisia?
Yes, that's qualification for Tunisia. Let's say Tunisia wins. They will be on 10 points and we will be on 8 points. And then Comoros on 6 points, Madagascar on 2 points. So automatically, Madagascar is out. Now, it's Tunisia qualifying. Now, the battle will be between the Gambia and Comoros. Gambia is going into its last game against Tunisia. So if the Gambia gets a point in that game, the Gambia will be on 9 points. And if Madagascar, let's say, goes into their last game against Comoros and lose against Comoros, that will give Comoros also with 9 points. So then goal difference comes into equation here. If we are tied, then the head-to-head comes into equation because we defeated Comoros and drew the other. So head-to-head, we will have an advantage over Comoros. But
yes, let's get another call again. Sorry. Hello.
Hello, bro.
Yes.
Hello, Tari.
Bijandorong, ito di mani wa kumandiro lo muntol.
Usman Boya Bondo.
Okay, Usman, be Gambia la kula kajaka national team.
Boya Moka, you know, boy, so get that trial, I win, I win, he's very happy, you know.
Be jigirin na ko wino wekela.
Hello?
Usman, be moy kanne.
Hello?
Usman, be moy kanne.
Yeah, back and forward, you know, but you can back, you know, because we go for Koro for the play line. I was very happy, you know. Boy, so they win, the power ticket, we know, you know.
Okay. Baraka back. Baraka Usman. Boy, so we win now.
It's not going to be an easy tie, but we all hope that the team will win. And of course, as I was saying, we hope to win, and a draw in the last game against Tunisia will do us good if Madagascar is not to win their last game. But if Madagascar wins, then mathematically the issue of Madagascar and Gambia comes into play in goal difference and head-to-head.
Comoros, rather.
Yeah, Comoros, yeah. Sorry, and Gambia. But we will be better than them when it comes to the head-to-head situation at that point. But let's try to win the 2 games, which is doable if we are...
To be on the safe side.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Yeah. We have another caller. Hello. Hello, caller. Hello. If you're just joining us, hello? Hello, caller. As we're talking about, the national team of the Gambia, the players have started arriving in Morocco, which is going to be home away from home again, since our Independence Stadium hasn't been cleared by CAF to host international matches after the last inspection some 2 weeks ago. And you can get some of the pictures there of the national team. The Scorpions, the players arriving in Morocco. You could see the pictures there. The players getting into their team bus and at least traveling to their hotel. That's what we can assume. Or maybe going to their first training, which is expected to be tomorrow. So they would have on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for training. And of course, Thursday will be a free-up day. And Friday, you have match day. So everything is happening thick and fast. Amadou, what a crucial game that we have. But we have another caller. Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
QTV, right?
Yes, QTV.
Okay, man la Mariama Cissé.
Okay, Mariama, ñu ngi waxtaanee fi football. Lan mooy si sa xelaat?
Boy si daal luñ am pour wa gaay bu ñu nekk foofu noonu di lose di wone dañ am chance dañ am ni. The best thing we need is goal.
Goals.
Football bi ñun soxlawuñ dribbling, soxlawuñ style, soxlawuñ dara. Win lañ soxla.
Win lañ soxla de.
Ñun duñ toog fii di seetaan boy si at the end suñ xol di naxari. Ñun ñii lañ am. So suñ demee ñu xam ne ñun ñu ngi toog si gannaaw ñu ngi leen di seetaan. Ñu try ñu make country bi ñu make ñu happy. Amul góor amul jigéen ñun Scorpions si ñun dañ leen bugga. Suñ wiinee dañ dee kontaan waaye buñ nekk foofu noonu di yaxat nit ñi di toog nit ñi seen feeling fii always
waa nga dégg waaw boobu moom
seetal rek bu ñu waxee ne dañ war a am home game bi fii ñun ñëpp a kontaan man dem naa bi ci na suma own t-shirt sam print ko def ko Lady Scorpion
lu nekk naa dégg jërëjëf
waaw
góol si daal nañ ñëw daal nañ score goal sax
góol si ñëw soo la wuñ dañ am chance ñun góol lañ bugga na dugga si biir jalbi rek
jërëjëf na dugga rek
waaw
all right jërëjëf thank you very much yes we have another caller they're coming in thick and fast hello caller are you right there? We're talking about the national team, the Scorpions. The players have started arriving in Morocco for the crucial AFCON qualifier, Morocco 2025 against Comoros. And then they will be playing against Tunisia for the final qualifiers game. Will the Gambia make it this time? Is it a tricky situation? This is not the first time we found ourselves in a situation of make it or break it. The last time it happened, we've survived it. Are we going to survive this time? That was against Congo. 2-2 it ended. Can you imagine? First half, 2-0. Everybody was frustrated. Some people even switched off their television, saying that, there is no way back. But eventually, it was 2-2. Hello, caller.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Gaya laftan da kafla program on jasa.
Okay, to di mani ba kumandi lo mundole.
Be kumandiro la kantura la kimambu Abdoulaye Konatelem.
Okay, Abdoulaye.
Lafta diamula Gambia la football ko la.
Problem tije. Bunda be le rien.
So Gambia la football on tika juwe nyame itali football la hanni min tata Europe wo abuga try ka selesando ka ji damaro ko kante jakal baki. Dos yango mede fele damen science and that try la perform for team ko tan ya sang.
Bari yaron science na tata Brighton.
Tata Brighton sign bari anyanta try le fo team bale nya wa fe woli ya sign.
Sign comme anyanta katala baki le dal.
Anyanta katala baki anyanta le kata ko le ka because ibuka moy ka fo sel da sande ka mo Umar jikala Musa Baro jibe sai. So
dal pour yela kato la fa e ka sele santo dal ni bota duma la timo de ta santo la timol.
Yeta santo la timol kono. Because Gambian Comoron la last game on dinga jibo long Gambia game of them 70%. Comoron be 30%. How long guy? Okay, baraka bak.
Yes, players aiming high, going top, making sure that they play at a higher level. If you're playing for Brighton, you aim to play for, if you like, play for Liverpool, play for Chelsea. Yes, when it comes to... but Ahmad, just finally, before we wrap up, Jonathan McKinstry, coach, was asked about his feeling of not playing at the Independence Stadium for this particular game, and this is how he reacted.
It is, I think there's no point being sort of disingenuous. Everyone was disappointed when it was said that we're going to have to be out of the country again. But we're adults, this is the nature. It's the difference between being 5 years old and being 25 or 35 or 45 is that we get to process our emotions and we get to move on. And so, yes, we were disappointed by it, but we know we've got a job to do. And we've got to go and give everything, all of our passion, all of our energy, all of our quality, and to do it in Morocco. And, the Gambian public can rest assured that we'll do everything we can to get the results that they want and that we want. And sooner rather than later, we'll be able to do that back here on Gambian soil. In terms of Rashid Njai, he's a player who's doing really well for himself. We're monitoring him closely. Obviously, at 18, 19 years old, started 13, 14 games this season, which in your first season is really good. At 18, 19 to go pro in Europe. Latvia is a good, solid league. Look, it's not the Bundesliga or the Premier League, but I would rather an 18-year-old be playing and learning those lessons at that age, because it helps him move on. And so winning a couple of trophies the last weeks, the Cup and the League, that's great for him. And we're really pleased with his development. He's a deep-lying midfielder. He's someone who can use the ball really well.
Well, the coach there reacting to the situation of the Independence Stadium that hasn't been cleared by CAF to play international matches again. Massive disappointment, of course, for every Gambian, every football lover. We would have loved to watch the Scorpions at the stadium in this game against Comoros, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. On Friday, it's going to be in Morocco, and we're looking forward to that. And I'm afraid that's it for Q Sports at this time. Thank you very much for watching. Join us next week on Q Sports on Saturday at 11 a.m.